I make the web browser a little bit smaller to imitate a tablet device, we see that the website has changed and it has morphed into something that looks a little bit different. And then if I keep going, we can see that everything scales down a little bit more to simulate a mobile device. So this basically allows you to test your website in uh, in a different viewport without actually owning all the different devices. So this would kind of be like an iPhone, well, an iPhone or other mobile device will probably make it a little bit smaller, probably be about this big. And then if we make it wider, this could simulate a mobile device, but you're holding it on landscape mode. And then if I make it a little bit bigger, this could simulate a tablet, about this size. And then if I resize about this wide, it'll be like a tablet, but you're holding it landscape. And then finally, we can just go desktop, which is basically the biggest viewport. Another website that I like to use to test responsive website, just kind of at a glance, is ami.responsivedesign.is, and I'll just type in the website name, the website URL, and just at a glance, I can just see how each device, oops, how the website looks on each different devices. So it looks pretty good. And there's other tools that I use as well, but just as an overview, just to make sure nothing looks terribly broken on any of the different devices, I like to use mi.responsivedesign.is. Anyways, so because your website is one code base, but it mutates to look good on each different devices, we have to be very careful in how we edit and maintain the site, because what might look good on a desktop as you're making changes could look horribly wrong on a tablet or mobile devices. But in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to edit and maintain your websites in order to alleviate or at least minimize some of the issues that could happen on different viewports. So I assume that you already watched the first video, so you know how to log in. When you log in, you'll be shown the dashboard, and on the left-hand side, we will primarily work within the Pages menu, which, when you click on, will give you all the pages to your site. So the first page that I like to go over is the contact page. The contact page is pretty much the most basic web page that has a lot of the elements that we're gonna go over. So we click on contact. So this is the contact page, and you see that there's text on the left hand side, there's a hyperlink as well as a email link, and on the right hand side there's an image. And in terms of responsive, let's see what happens. So desktop and then tablet, it'll scale down until finally when it goes into a mobile view, the picture on the right hand side stacks underneath the first column, and basically we see one long column. Okay, so in the dashboard, we'll go to pages and we'll select edit, and then we'll edit the contact page. And we'll notice the first thing is that the back end does not look anything like the front end. There are some weird code snippets here in between some of the content, and basically what this is essentially code that will tell the computer browser to kind of adjust the layout of the website so that it accommodates the viewport. It's what makes this whole mechanism work of changing the site so that it still looks good on the different devices. So to make the image scale down until it reaches a certain size, and then it starts stacking. And once it starts stacking, it can then continue to for the text continue to float to the next line as the screen size gets smaller. So all those little code that you see here tells the browser to do that. So with that in mind, ignore these. What you want to do is edit just the content. So let's say you wanted there's a couple of things we need to make sure that you know we remember when editing content. Again, ignore the code, and when you're editing certain things, like let's say the contact, instead of highlighting the whole thing and deleting and start typing things again, I recommend typing what you want the thing to change to, the text to change to. So let's say we wanted to call it my contact, and let's say lowercase. Right. Put your cursor in between the first letter and the second letter, and then type your new tag content there, and then delete everything around it. So that way it prevents you from actually deleting actual styles, the font type, the font styles, the font size, the line height, the font colors. If you highlight the entire word, delete it, and then start typing, you'll lose those you lose that coding that's behind the scene that's already been established. So you don't want that. If you want to maintain the same look and feel, but just want to change the text, I recommend just putting your cursor in between the first and second letter, or anywhere inside. So let's say contact us, and deleting everything around it so you retain the original style. So that's important, because you wanna you don't want to delete the actual styles. You just want to delete the actual content. Well, modify the actual content. In order to edit the mail to link, mail to links are the same thing as regular links, except there's a special word, and I'll show you. So if you highlight the link, the entire link, and click on this paperclip, it looks like a paperclip, but really it's just a chain link. And you click on that, you'll see that you'll have a little command called mail to : and that basically tells the browser that, oh, this is not a hyperlink that links to another page, but this is an actual link that is connected to an email address. So open up the user's email client. So you want to type in mail to : and then whatever the email address is. So if this was going to be, if you want to change it from styles@blowoutjunkie.com to contacts at blowoutjunkie.com, you can do that, and you click on update. I'm not going to do that. But you want to click on update in there, and then finally you want to update the page. None of these changes actually make a difference until you click on this blue update button. And then for driving directions, which is a regular hyperlink, if I highlight the entire link and I click on the chain, you can see that the URL is in here, and then I can check the checkbox to tell WordPress if I want this hyperlink, when clicked on, to open up a new tab. Else it will just open up within the same window as the web page. It's recommended that if the hyperlink is a link outside your website, to actually open up a new tab. Else it's fine to, if it's an internal link, it'd be fine to just open up within the same window. And that's typically expected. So if I wanted to, so let's say I wanted to create a new hyperlink, and just for experimentation, let's just say click here to learn more about our services. And I want to say click here, so the word here is going to be a hyperlink, so let me highlight here. I'll click on a link. There is a search for all the pages under here are pages within your site. You can search for it, so let's click on services. and it's kind of thinking. I think it's the service. It might be services. Let's see. Yeah, it's the service, and I'll explain why there's two. No, it's not. Let's see. Service menu and then services. So it's this one. Click on add link. And then you'll see that that's now hyperlinked. So if I click on update, it'll update the page. Let's go ahead and do that since we're on the dev server right now. Perfect. And then if I click on this, it'll take me to the services page. Apparently I have the open new tab checkbox, which we don't want. So let's uncheck that, because I noticed that when I clicked on that, it opened up a new tab, which we don't want. We just want to open up within the same window. So we uncheck this open link in new tab. Click on add link, update. Refresh the page. Oh, it looks like the hyperlink's gone. Let's see what happened. Let's click on update. Perfect, our link's back. So when you clicked on, it's not going to open a new tab, but it will go to the services page. So we'll fix this. We'll go over this a little bit more. The next thing I wanted to talk about is within your content section that you can edit. So let's say let me just create some blank text to work with. There is a difference between a line break and a paragraph break. A line break is when you click on Shift Enter, and essentially brings the cursor to the next line, and then you can continue typing in new text. A paragraph break is when you press Enter, and essentially it's a line break plus spacing. So, and then you can continue putting on your next text. So there is a difference. So line break is Shift Enter, and then you can type, and all it does is bring the cursor to the next line. And then a paragraph break, which is just Enter, and when you type, it brings the cursor to the next line, but adds and then adds another spacing to it. So just remember when you're typing, paragraph break versus line break, and that's going to come into play more when you're trying to space out your content appropriately for the different viewports. Last thing I want to go over is images. So similarly to when you want to maintain a style, putting a cursor in between the first and second letter and adding your text. So doing something like that instead of deleting it and typing in payment options, in which case you'll lose your styling. Same thing with images. Don't delete the images. Instead, what you want to do is you want to swap out the images. Because if you delete the images, you'll lose the size of the image. You'll lose the decoding that's gone behind the scenes to make it responsive, and the alignment of right align, centering, or left align. So instead, what I recommend is just to swap out the image. So in order to do that, you'll hover over the image, click on the image, and you'll see this little pencil sign. Go ahead and click on pencil sign, or the pencil icon. It'll bring up an in-page modal. This is the image that we want to change out. There are certain specs that you want it to be aware of. So right now it's aligned to the right. The image size is 358 by 477. So 358 pixels wide by 477 pixels high. The image that you're going to replace this, let's say you do want to replace this image, should be the same dimensions. So that way you retain all the same similar features, or at least how it lays out on the page. So I would highly recommend if you're swapping this image out, that the new image will also be in 358 by 477. Um, the class here is image responsive. You don't have to really take note there. And I think that's it. Just remember that these two are the most important thing. And also, it doesn't link anywhere. Certain images, if you want, we could have it so that when clicked on, it could link to a custom URL or to a bigger version of that image. But for this one, it's not. It's going to link to nothing. So under display settings, just make a note of that it's right aligned, the size, and that it's not linking to anything. Because when we want to replace the image, so if I click on replace, some of that stuff is going to change. So alignment was going to be right. So we want this to be right aligned. We don't want this to link anywhere. And the image size is fine. I don't know why WordPress resets that, but it does. So that's why on the screen before, under the, I think, display settings, we wanted to make sure that we made note of the alignment, the link to, and the size. And then, anyway, so if we wanted to swap the image out, what you could do is make sure that the image is on your desktop, and you could just drag and drop the new image in, like that. And then essentially replace. This new image was just a test. It's not going to be the same size, so I'm not going to replace it. But again, make sure that to make it easy for you, just make sure the new image is on your desktop, and then you can just click and drag it into this window, and it'll automatically upload the image. And once it's finished uploading, you can click on it and then click on replace. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to replace that image because it's not the same size or same dimensions. So that's how you replace images. So all you're really doing is swapping out the current image with a new image. So let's go over the services page. The services page is kind of weird in that if you go to all pages, and you'll get this if you're using Chrome and you haven't saved the page. Again, none of the changes actually save until you click on update. You could also preview changes, and this will allow you to see what the page looks like and test how the page will respond on different view sizes before actually updating the site and making those changes live on the site. Previews are only going to it's only going to be for you to double check your work, and nobody else will see it. So it's a nice and safe way to kind of experiment and making sure that the changes to your site aren't going to break anything before actually committing to an update. Before we go to the services, I want to kind of go over revisions. So if you don't see the revision section down here, what you could do is scroll all the way at the top. There's a little tab called Screen Options. Click on that and make sure that revisions is checked. And what that does is, if you did make a mistake and you did commit a change that did end up being incorrect and broken your site a little bit, you could revert back to a previous version of this page. So let's say I wanted to go back maybe 2 weeks ago. I'll click on that. And then you'll see some pages. So I don't really understand this section here. Not showing why it doesn't show more changes, because there has been a lot of changes since now 2 weeks ago, unless there isn't really. But you'll see the difference between the changes between the left hand side and right hand side. But if you want to restore the previous version, all you have to do is click on restore this revision, and it'll bring it back to the page of what it was before the most recent changes. So that's kind of a nice feature, so that you can always revert back to an old state that was working before your current changes that kind of broke things. So now that I went over that, let's go to services. Services is interesting. On the website, we noticed that there's two services. There's services here, that just acts as kind of a hover feature, and then there's the actual services page. In the back end, we see that there's service, and then we see indented services. Here, let's say services, and I think that's because it's been renamed through the menus. If I go to settings, or go to appearance and menus, I think in the menu structure, services was overwritten to be services. Again, in the menu structure, you could overwrite the label to be anything you want. So if I want this to be services menu, I could change that. Save menu. Say services menus. Books will get bumped down because it's a little bit longer than the page width. So it'd be called services menus, even though the page is still going to be called service. So you can override anything in the menus structure if you wanted to. So let me go back to menus and change services menus to service, just so that it looks correct. And of course, if I refresh this page, okay, good, service. And if I refresh this page, service, good. So the service here, if you click on edit, you'll see that there's going to be a note saying this programmer's note, this page isn't being used, but instead as an anchor for the menus, edit the real service page here. That's just basically saying that this page doesn't really exist, it's just being used as a fake menu item so that you can hover over it and click on to go to then be able to see the submenu items. So instead, let's click on the indented services page, which would be this page here. As you can see, doesn't look exactly like the website, but it is that page. It just has other things, and everything's it's one column. Again, these coding tells how this page will respond to the different viewport sizes, and then eventually it just stacks underneath. Again, my recommendation is, instead of deleting the whole thing where you would lose the styles, just click on the anywhere inside the text, preferably just between the first and second character. Type in what you want to do and then delete everything around it, and that way you don't lose the styles and you don't lose the different font elements that's been applied. But if you want different colors and different font styles, that's up to your discretion. You can do that as well. You can highlight the entire page or entire line of text, and you can change the font family to be different things. Now you have to be careful with some of these fonts. They're not all supported by different browsers and different operating systems. But the world's your oyster in terms of what you want to do. So you could unbold this. You can italicize this. Change the font size. Change the font color if you wanted to. I mean, you could do anything you like. Just don't get too crazy, because not all browsers support all the different types of fonts, font elements. Also, you want to make sure that what you do makes sense in terms of the design of this website. You want to make sure everything still looks conform and still looks professional. And yeah, so the main point of this section is just differentiate between services, the menu items, and services, the actual page. Let's go through another page that I know most likely will get changed, at least in the beginning, because we launch with some temporary placeholders. So under the About page, let's go to About. We have 3 black squares. So let's say we wanted to replace these with the actual finalized portrait pictures. What you would do is click on this black image, and this one would be a portrait picture of Nicole. We'll click on this pencil icon, Again, we'll make note of the different elements here. So it's going to be left align. The size is going to be 114 by 114, and it's not going to link to anything. So when we click on replace, want to make sure that it's not going to link to anything. It's going to be left align, and the image that we want to replace it with is going to be 114 by 114. Another thing to make sure it's better if it's the same file type. That way it's consistent. But notice that this one is portrait.jpg. The image type that you want to replace this, not only does it have to be 114 by 114, it should also be a JPEG picture as well. And most likely it will be a JPEG, but you do have different options. GIF and PNG are the two other ones that it could be. And that's GIF with a G, so GIF. But most likely your designer will give you a JPG, a JPEG. But just something to make note of. If your image does not look right or doesn't show up, just make sure that it's the same file type as the image that was before that you're swapping out from. And again, to upload an image, make sure the image is on your desktop to make it easy, and you just click the image and drag the image over into the window, and it'll automatically upload and save the image on your website. And then click on replace when it's done. I'm going to do that here, and then click on the update button to update the page. In my notes, it's mentioned that I want to go over one more page, which is the press page. So let's take a look to see what page that is. Alright, so we'll click on edit. We'll go to press and we'll click on edit. Okay, doesn't seem like there's anything much coming soon. You're probably not going to keep the same font elements. The style and the boldness can go away, so you can just highlight, delete that, and you could type in anything you want. In this case, it actually retained the style, so let's continue typing. This is our latest press release, and you can type in etc. And you can just highlight that and unbold it, and that way it'd be fine. If it's a Word doc or some sort of, if this is a press release and you had like a PDF or an image, you can just easily add that by clicking on add media. So make sure the cursor's where you want that to be. So let's say we do want the image or the PDF to be underneath this text here, so that's the cursor's in the right location. Click on add media, and you can just go ahead and upload the image or upload the PDF. Videos are going to be a little bit tricky. That'll be something that will have to be in a later video, and some changes will have to happen to the website. So contact me when if you do want to add video or audio clips onto your website. But in everything else, Word docs and PDFs, just grab the file, make sure it's on your desktop to make it easy, drag it into here, into your window, and then just insert in the page, and then it'll show up in the page, and then you can update it. Images, same thing. All you want to do is swap out the image. Click on this pencil icon. Make sure you note the alignment. It's gonna be center. It's gonna be full size, 268 by 268. This one is gonna link to it's gonna basically link to itself. Let's make that to none. And then when you click on replace, make sure the same configurations are going to be there. Make sure it's a JPEG, and then drag the image over to the window, replace, and that's basically it. And then update the page when you're done. So essentially, we went over all the different elements on how to update and maintain your page. If you want to add a new page, you could do that as well. Go to pages. And you click on add new. Now let's say this is let's say we want to add another page called I don't know, copyright or legal. Let's just do copyright. And then you can start typing in here. What I recommend is first you want to publish this. I would try to find a page that has similar characteristics that I would want on the copyright page. So let's say the press page is similar to what I want the copy page to look like. The next thing I want to do is once I create the copyright page, I would go to the press page. I would highlight, I would highlight the entire section here. I would copy it by pressing Control C, and then I would leave that, not making any changes. Go to my copyright page, and then paste in the press page into the copyright, and that way I know that the copyright page will have the same coding style as the press page and work like the press page in terms of how it will look like on different viewports like the tablet and mobile. And I would just change everything in between. So from press, I would change it to copyright, coming soon would be whatever I would want in here, and then swap out the image and so forth. Update the page. Now, just because I created the page does not necessarily mean it's going to be in the menu. But if I go to dev.blowoutjunkie.com/copyright, I see that I can go to the page. So you create the page, it's available online, but it's not in the menus. So if you wanted to put it in the menu, sometimes you don't want the page to be in the menus. Let's say you had a special blowout sale or a special promotion that you don't want people to know, but only people that you specifically point to that page to know. You could just create the page and keep it away from the menus. But if you do want it in the menus, you go to the appearance, you go to menus, and similarly to the first video, you'll check the checkbox for copyright, the page that you want to add to menu, click on add to menu, and it's always going to be at the bottom, and then from there you can click and drag it to anywhere you want. Either if it's indented underneath a main one, it'll be under the submenu, so in this case it'll be under the about as a submenu item, or it could be its own menu element, but then it might cause the book to be dropped down to the second line. So that's how you add a new page and then add it to the menus. Thank you.